very well aware of the intent of the British government and also like the Jewish agency, the Jewish military groups. The Palestinians were very well aware of the intent of those foreign occupiers to literally take over the country. Okay, and so my grandfather is famous not only in Palestine but actually throughout the entire Middle East, because my grandfather is the first person to organize a resistance revolt against the British Empire throughout the entire Middle East, not just in Palestine. He was the first one in the whole Middle East to organize a revolt against the British. But what happens is when you do that, you get arrested. The British don't like when you organize a revolt against them. And so what happened was my grandfather got arrested by the British government. And then they took him on this military destroyer right here called the HMS Sussex. And then they sailed him all the way to the Seychelles Islands. Okay? So I'm going to I'll show you this real quick. So the Seychelles Islands are like this little dot right here in the middle of the Indian Ocean. And the Seychelles Islands where he was held there as a political prisoner. So then what happened was after he was held as a political prisoner with several other leaders. Okay, and so are you guys familiar like with all the protests that were going on at like Columbia University? Okay, so at Columbia University, there is a very well-known Middle East professor. His name is Jason Al Ghussain. And he wrote a book called The 100 Years War on Palestine. Okay. And this book went viral recently because Joe Biden was seen walking out of the Nantucket bookstore holding that book. So Rashid Khalidi is actually a personal friend of mine. And the reason why Rashid is a personal friend of mine is because if you look at this photo, this is the 5 main Palestinian leaders that were arrested and taken into exile in the Seychelles Islands. This is my grandfather right here, and this is Rashid Al Khalili's uncle. So what happened was Joe Biden, actually, as the President of the United States, walked out of the bookstore holding a book that details the entire arrest of my grandfather as well, right? Like, so Rashid wrote the book about the exile of the Palestinian leaders and blah, blah, blah. And, it's his book, so he mainly focuses on his uncle here. But for me, as you have to understand, like, my perspective, I'm like chilling here in Cincinnati, I'm watching the whole genocide go on, and then I'm also watching the fucking President of the United States walk out of a bookstore holding a book that I know damn well tells the whole story of my grandfather leading the Arab Revolt. And then being arrested and detained in the Seychelles Islands. So that is some of the history that I wanted to just sort of like touch on real quick. And then one last thing, I have a lot of stuff in here, but I can tell that we're dwindling on time. So one last thing that I want to show you guys is who here has heard that Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East? Raise your hands. I'm just asking if you've heard it. I'm not saying if you believe it. You've all heard this? Okay. So, total fucking bullshit. And what this is a newspaper clipping of my grandfather's election results being democratically elected. These are vote counts. Being democratically elected to be the governor of the town of Ramla, where my family is from in Palestine. So, as I was learning about Palestinian history and my own family history, one thing that was also occurring was this belief that I had grown up with, as an American, which is like Israel's our number one ally, they're the only democracy in the Middle East, blah, 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 blah. Like, when you see your own grandfather's election results and a vote count, that whole, like, propaganda bullshit, it just pops. Like, you just, like, no longer believe it anymore. So that's some of the background and history of, like, my family, and that's also some of the inspiration, you know, as to why I do some of my work. So now I'm going to switch over here to show you guys some of my work. So this is basically the Jaffa Orange mural wall. This is the before shot, okay? And then this is me. I rented a bulldozer, went around, had to grade the lot out, smooth it out, put gravel down, you know, had to get a bunch of paint and supplies to put it in. This is throwing down primer, throwing down some blue for the sky. Now you got, you see it's all blue. And then this is kind of an important part. I want to talk to you guys about this step because you guys are artists and designers. So I painted the whole background blue, but then I started to paint where I was going to put the oranges white. And the reason why is because if you paint orange paint on top of blue, while I was working on the mural, Josh Paul came and visited me. Josh Paul is a senior State Department official who resigned from the Biden administration amid the war in Gaza, that, you know, is a genocide. And so he actually resigned, like, I want to say like October 15th. Like, he resigned like pretty damn quick after this whole thing started. Because, again, a lot of people who are educated know the history of Palestine, and if you study the history, you're going to end up taking the side of the Palestinian people most of the time. So,